Week 4, how to not let your dream defeat you or be defeated and not accomplish your dream. Posting on a Monday because I totally spaced out and didn't do it yesterday. I remembered for like 20 minutes and then got busy doing a bunch of other stuff and didn't get to it. But no rational excuses. So here we are. So how not to be defeated by your dream or let life defeat you to not accomplish your dream. And this comes back to a couple core principles that really work for me. And I think the first one is centered around well-being. And this is very poignant this week, just because I've been very focused on doing a lot of firefighting, studying, work in that capacity, doing a whole interview process for Seguin Fire Department, and not doing a lot of writing, but still going to the gym, still eating well, still getting out and walking, thanks to the cute dog, Freya. Hello. So some necessities that just have to happen. And as far as what's first and foremost, and it's well, you can sacrifice your health and well-being in the short term. And there are definitely there are periods in time in which that it makes sense to make those trade-offs, right? Where, you have a busy week, you're coming up to the end of a quarter and you have a huge deadline. Or, for example, if it's your dream, you're coming up to your week before your marathon, you need to take some more time out to do some more, PT, some more stretching, some more casual runs, lower down the volume, really dial in the nutrition and sleep, making sure your support systems are set up, figuring those things out. If you're writing and you're coming up to a query deadline, then it's all right, you're gonna have to go all in. Maybe that means a little less sleep, which is foundational across health and well-being first and foremost. So, there are certain times you will make trade-offs, but first and foremost for me, everything's built on well-being and health and up from there, right? And we're not talking about having your basic needs met, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But we kind of are. We're talking about basic well-being as far as are you rested? Have you been eating well? Are you moving your body in some capacity, whatever that means to you? Are you exercising your mind? Are you getting outside in nature if you can? If you can, are you looking at beautiful nature photography? Are you making sure that you're in a room that's adequately lit up? Do you have some green things in the house? Are there more temperate colors, natural colors of blues and greens and things of that nature, or even yellows that, just have some more positive emotions and, are more evocative in nature. So well-being first and foremost. And so that's something that's are you at least doing that minimum and taking care of yourself there? Because if you're not, in the short term, sure, you can get away with that, depending on your health and where you're at. But you can get away with a short-term trade-off, whether that's, a day, a week, a month, even, a few months potentially. How hard are you going? Is this, your forever sprint? Because that's probably not going to be likely if you're making a ton of trade-offs. There are costs and consequences to each and every action that we do and don't take, right? Opportunity cost, sunk cost. So thinking about what really works for you and what really works for me, during sprints and these trade-offs and things, is still trying to prioritize sleep, trying to prioritize some kind of movement and getting outside. Now, in periods where it's a sprint and have a ton of other stuff on, I'm still doing most of those things at least daily or as often as I can. But it's not a normal period where it's oh, I don't have a lot on. We don't have a lot of social events. We're not going out to the farmers markets. We don't have a ton of birthdays on. We're not trying to move a bunch of accounts and dealing with immigration things and also applications and interviewing process, as well as booking and hiring in a Finnish Fire Academy while trying to write and do these other things, and taking on a bunch of jobs and volunteering opportunities with the Sonora Animal Sanctuary. So it's so during periods of rest and relaxation and more winter temperate periods where you can slow things down and you have more time to do more well-being things, that's when you want to stack up these gains, right? But during sprints, like I find myself and Rebecca finds herself right now, we are making trade-offs, but it's still showing up and doing the well-being things, but maybe instead of, working out for an hour, 3, 4, 5 times a week, maybe it's 15 minutes. And you know what? That's okay. Maybe the workout is also taking the dog out on a walk while maybe listening to voice notes and getting back to messages, because that's just what it is right now. But you are ticking off boxes. Now, that's not sustainable long term, but it's even killed for a little bit. And it's not a pure drop off of you're like, I'm going to burn all the bridges and not do anything and just fool in on work, which you could do, or fool in on your dream, or fool in on whatever life is pulling you towards in this moment, right? Taking care of a sick loved one, like showing up in some other kind of capacity for work, or, maybe being pulled in another direction. So, it's just about being mindful of the long term while also realizing these short-term trade-offs aren't sustainable over a long period of time. But as long as you're willing to make them, then that's what happens. So like this last week, riding, probably got in like 3 hours, which is like pretty significant low. But it's like, I pulled in a bunch of directions, had a bunch of stuff going on that was very time sensitive. And, rationally me explaining a lot of things away, were some of those things actual excuses? Absolutely. Could I have done more riding and traded off some, like going out to hang out with friends at one point, some other things like going on a walk, to see some other people? Yes, could have made those trades, but didn't. But that's not sustainable for the long term as far as what my horizon is. And so you got to think about what is your horizon and what do you want out of that, and what kind of pace and trade-offs are you willing to make to keep going, and what's sustainable, right? Because this is sustainable. You're not going to get anywhere. You're literally at the same spot. So if your goal is to write, let's say 100,000 words this year, and you wrote 100 this week, well, that math doesn't math. So that's not sustainable. You could probably do 100 a week. Sure. That's totally possible, totally doable. You're not going to hit your goal by the end of the year. So your time horizon either has to adjust, or your capacity on your trade-offs. Maybe that means less time with friends. Maybe that means, canceling the Netflix subscriptions. Maybe that means, going out for walks instead of, or walking to the store instead of driving there if it's close. So it's figuring out what kind of trade-offs you're willing to make to accomplish that or not, and how to just keep going. And sometimes, the short-term trade-offs and the short weeks, and just like 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there, like anywhere you can cobble together, you're still pushing along that dream and still making it happen, still showing up. But Freya walked by. But it's just, how can you do that in a sustainable way and realize that it's not possible? That's not a long-term strategy depending on what your goal is, right? Like if you're trying to run a marathon, walking 3 times a week a mile only isn't going to get you up to running a marathon or walking a marathon. If that's your week 1, or if that's like maybe you have to do that for 2 weeks and then you can amp back up because of time, then sure, like you can totally do that. Maybe it's 15-minute run here, maybe it's a 30-minute run there. But eventually you have to ramp back up that mileage to be able to accomplish that, depending on what your goal is and what your dream is. So yeah, this week's been very focused on prioritizing a lot of other things, which has not been the dream. And when I do find myself coming to write, just realizing how fulfilling and gratifying it is, and how much I want to focus on that. And do that while still showing up in these other areas of life, right? Because we have other things that we're interested in. We have people that we love about, care about, and that want to show up for. So, I think this week has just been focused on like, what do you need to do to keep going, and realizing that, short-term trade-offs aren't long-term strategies, has been something very meaningful to me. So well-being being super important. And after well-being is being open-minded. And so open-minded, the fact of being imaginative and willing to change and adapt and try different things and different tactics that you haven't used before as far as running, riding, like, you know, working on your business, your side hustle that you want to turn into your main job, like showing up for a loved one in a different kind of way. You know, it was Valentine's this last week. It's like, did you do the typical, like, go to the store, buy some chocolates, like show up with some flowers and stuff? Or maybe did you go out of your way and you like did a little bit of research about what your partner's been really into, maybe some anime show or something, and you like researched some characters on there and like created some whole little animated little song thing, and like maybe ordered some customized shirts or something that, you know, matching shirts to wear. I don't know. Sounds dope. Like my wife and I would totally wear Nightmare Before Christmas matching hoodies, because who doesn't love Nightmare Before Christmas and matching hoodies? And hoodies in general, because they're so versatile and useful all the time. So, you know, it's about being open-minded to trying different things and being adaptable, and also being open-minded to this week isn't going to look like next week, and it's not going to probably look like last week. And if it does, you have a lot of structure and organization and stability, which is great, right? Until you come up to adverse situations or things change, because surprises do happen. Surprise, they are called surprises for a reason. Unforeseen unknowables that show up in your life. So yeah, I think for me, it's well-being, you know, being open-minded to trying different things and showing up in different kinds of ways at different times, you know, different capacities, as far as like keeping the dream the main thing. Now, that necessarily doesn't have to be like, the main thing doesn't have to be the thing that you give all your waking time to. That's probably your 9 to 5, providing for your family, like showing up, you know, taking your dog on walks, like doing things like that. But it can still, your dream can still be the main thing, because that's what you love and that's what you pour all your energy and love into. And that's why it's the main thing, not just because of time or word count or like volume of a run. You know, so being mindful of that, and then being resilient, right? Because long term, we can't show up if we're not taking care of ourselves and our trajectory is downfalling, right? So being resilient, and, you know, whether that's emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, you know, those main components of and types of how can you be resilient in these different capacities. And maybe it's like, man, I really want to work on my dream and stuff. Had a really long week. One of the kids was sick, like still got like schoolwork and stuff to help with him doing that. And it's like, maybe actually taking 15 minutes out of my day just to shut my eyes and listen to some like super chill lo-fi beats, some Trevor Hall, you know, maybe some acoustic Taylor Swift or some like chill R&B, is going to re-energize me, so that way I can keep going and be resilient. Because it's not about just showing up today. It's about showing up tomorrow and the next day and forever. Like, so about being resilient, and that also kind of ties back to being open-minded and being like concentrated on well-being, and these all kind of like accumulate and feed into each other, right? These three big components. Because you can't be resilient if you're not open-minded and trying different things and filling in your well-being. And when you are resilient, that ties into those other things and lets you show up and accomplish your dream, because it's not just, you know, a one-day sprint that's going to get you there. If it does, I'd love to hear how you pull that off. You know, please share. But it's like, it's going to take time. It's going to be steps along the way, and, you know, a couple forward, a couple back, like slowly moving in this trajectory. And, you know, the day-to-day may look like this, but the overall progression of the year and stuff should be a slow, well, hopefully it's fast for you, but a trajectory like moving upwards and to the right. So being resilient, focused on well-being, being open-minded, and just continuing to keep the main thing, and just being kind to yourself and, of course, others, because we're all humans in the same world. So, yeah, just being kind to yourself in that capacity, and keep pursuing the dream, keep making it happen. So together we can make the world a better place. Anyways, week 4, here it is. That's all you get, because I got to get back to doing some writing and some other things before taking this pupperoonie on a walk, because, you know, obligations and stuff. Until then, all the love, all the abundance. Peace.